welcome to Mindful Moments. I am Dr. Kim Dwyer, and I am joined by my friend and colleague, Dr. Kristi Helvig. And we're so glad you're here with us tonight, whether you're here live or whether you're watching the replay. We hope that you find this conversation helpful and a interesting discussion about mindfulness in the professional space. So let me first start by introducing Kristi. Kristi Helvig is both a licensed clinical psychologist and a certified life coach. She received her PhD from Nova Southeastern University, where she met me, where she focused on cognitive behavioral and solution-focused techniques. Kristi has over 15 years of experience in life and career coaching. She incorporates mindfulness training into her coaching and is very strengths-based in her approach. Kristi has worked with everyone from people just starting out in their careers, people getting back into the workforce after a break, successful executives who realize they want to do something entirely different, and people of all ages who still don't know what they want to be when they grow up. Outside of coaching, Kristi is also a published science fiction author who has made many appearances at conventions such as Comic-Con, and she loves living in sunny Colorado with her fabulous husband, amazing kids, and behaviorally challenged dogs. So welcome, Kristi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just maybe just start by sharing a little bit about kind of what we're doing here tonight, and I'll share kind of the background for putting together Mindful Moments. So I'm also a clinical psychologist and business consultant for mental health providers. I'm also an author and recently published Mindful Mondays, this is like not mirror image, which is weird.
Yes. Great book.
Yes. So Mindful Mondays, the subtitle is Transforming the Everyday to Claim Calm and Reduce Stress. And it's actually a good tie-in when talking about the professional space. So when I started writing Mindful Mondays, I actually started writing it as a series of essays about mindfulness at work. And I was actually writing it on my LinkedIn profile or page or whatever. It was originally 52 Mindful Mondays, and my idea was to write an essay every week, for a year. And once I realized where I was going with it, I kind of pulled it off of that platform and decided to make it into a book and broadened it beyond just mindfulness at work. But that was kind of one of the impetus for writing it was like, how do we bring more mindfulness into the workspace? So in my work, I work a lot with folks with anxiety disorders, stress, transition kinds of things, and definitely work from a mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral perspective and use a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy, which is fairly similar, but maybe with a stronger emphasis on values identification and values-aligned behavior. So I'm just excited to talk to you, Kristi, and chat about like how do we bring these skills into work and how can we use this to help with careers and career change and managing conflict at work and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's been such a challenging year in general, year and a half now, with the pandemic. And I think that people have been experiencing even more stress than in the past because of all kinds of things, right? Like a lot of people, when the kids were remote, had kids at home, were working remotely, we're trying to balance parenting, teaching, school, and everything else. So I think we've had extra challenges, but that's also presented some opportunities. And I work with, besides individuals, I work with companies, and I've seen a lot of companies now, which makes me so happy, implementing more mindfulness, realizing that it's been such a stressful year, and they've been implementing more mindfulness even into team trainings. I've had a huge corporation that I've done trainings for permanently move due to the pandemic to a 4-day work week to allow more work-life balance, which is fabulous. Again, the people who I think are being creative and proactive and using mindfulness, their employees are happier, the stress levels are down. So I think the more training and teaching, and your book is a great thing I think companies could use to help promote different ways people can use mindfulness.
Awesome. Yeah. And you hit on like some of like the outcomes we're shooting for, right? Like more creativity, less stress, more balance. What are some of your thoughts about how do we do that? Like, how do we bring mindfulness into work? What have you seen work for your clients, for companies that you've consulted with, things like that?
Yeah, so I've gone in and done team trainings where basically some people, aren't familiar with mindfulness. And certain industries, I don't think necessarily have lent themselves to let's be present in the moment kind of things, especially like high pressure sales type environments.
Mhm.
But what's interesting is when they've brought me in to teach some of these things, they have told me they found sales go up, productivity goes up, client satisfaction goes up because people are feeling calmer and less stressed. And so one way is through trainings. I also work with leaders of companies and so teach them how to introduce it to their staff, especially if it hasn't been done before. One of the nice things with everything being remote for so long is they were able to do a lot of trainings virtually. So they reached all the employees, that kind of thing. And then with individuals, working with them on what can they do like in the 5 minutes before they start work in the morning?
Right.
What can they do on their lunch break? I've had clients do 2 minutes of mindfulness before a big presentation they have to give, or before they have a difficult client phone call, that kind of thing, where it becomes just part of their day.
Yes. And I think that's where a lot of the value in mindfulness comes in. It's not necessarily that taking the long chunk of time to sit in quiet meditation or, spend an hour in a yoga class and all that, which is great when you can do it. One of the analogies I use in my book is about raindrops. So you might go and do like week-long meditation retreat, and that's like jumping in the ocean and just staying like floating in the ocean. Something shorter, like a weekend, is maybe like you're in the lake. 30-minute practice might be like, a quick bath, right? But then we have like these moments that are just the single moment, just that one breath, that's reset, come back into my body, feel my sensations, remind my brain like, you're here right now and you're okay. Like, get out of the future, come back to right now. It could be the intentional space of, my job right now is to listen to this person. My job right now is not to jump to, how am I going to respond to them? How are we going to get to this goal that I want to get to? And I think like when I think about workplace and organizational issues, there can be really healthy communication and listening. There can also be really unhealthy communication and listening where it's driven, kind of top down, like get your people to this point without necessarily like listening to like, okay, why aren't the people at that point already? Like what are the obstacles, and really helping them problem solve, which requires you to get out of that outcome that you're looking for and come back to just be in the moment, don't judge, just be curious and observe and listen.
Absolutely. And I think that point you made about just like the deep breath, like one of the things I teach all my clients is that 4-count breath, because it's something you can use anywhere. You can use it in the middle of a meeting and no one knows you're doing it. And it helps you reset, because when we're stressed and our stress hormones go up, the adrenaline, the cortisol, we go into fight or flight response, the blood goes away from our brain. So even the act of like 2 deep breaths brings more oxygen back to your body, but also to your brain, which is what you need it to do. So you can have clarity and think clear, be able to listen to the other person instead of getting all like, well, this is what I'm going to say back, that kind of thing.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think, not to be stereotypical, but a lot of my guys who haven't done necessarily a lot of mindfulness before have it in their head that it's like sitting in a cave with your legs crossed chanting. And I'm like, no, like it's kickboxing. It's like they'll go do things where they're just in the moment. They do rock climbing, and we can't always be doing that, which is where the breathing can really help come in. But I think mindfulness can look all sorts of different ways. And so it's important, I think, to help people on what it is versus what it's portrayed as.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think we've even chatted about this before, like this idea that we maybe get from the media that you're going to sit on a cushion and suddenly you're floating, 3 feet in the air surrounded by blue light. Like, it's a disservice because it sets up this unrealistic expectation. And it's really just about like, just coming back to right now and noticing the thought is thought, noticing the emotion, with maybe interest and curiosity about, why is this showing up for me right now the way it is? What's it here to tell me about?
Yes, and that the solution to the problem you have is going to come from staying in that place of stillness and quiet. That's when you're going to get the clarity. That's when you're going to get the good ideas, the creative ideas, problem solving, those sorts of things. When people get stressed and they start thinking like 3 steps ahead, like that, when it pulls them out of that moment is when they just get more frazzled and they're not able to think as well.
Yeah, excuse me. That's a good segue into your thoughts about how mindfulness can make you more successful at work. So talk a little bit about creativity and problem solving.
Yeah, so I think that going back to that, being in the present moment is where all the good things happen. When you allow space for things through any kind of mindfulness, deep breathing, visualization, meditation, creative visualization is a really powerful mindfulness tool that I usually start out teaching people meditation first if they don't know that step. But the creative visualization, where you engage all 5 senses, they have found so many studies, your brain is actually tricked into thinking that it's real. So the way you can then use that, you can use it for anything in life, but for purposes of career, you really envision sort of either what the issue is, the workplace conflict, what you would like your ideal job thing to be like until you feel it. And it brings about change quicker. You tend to come up with more creative ideas. You come up with more ideas that are more in the moment rather than fear-based. You come up with ideas that are more energy toward what you want versus desperation or fear-based moving away from something. So, and just that increased, well, I don't want to skip ahead to the next one because they all tie together.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Go into the next one.
So the other huge benefit is just increased productivity and along with that efficiency, right? That whole Pareto principle, you get 80% of your outcome from 20% of your input. If you use mindfulness to get clarity on where you need to direct your energy most, you get faster results and more efficient results than spinning your wheels in 20 different directions trying to figure out what to do next. I have a client who, once he started applying this, and he runs a multi-million-dollar business, and he said that out of all our work together, the mindfulness piece was the most important to him because when he got it, he was able to tune in and just intuitively, business-wise, feel if a decision was good versus not a good decision. And that increased his income, his productivity, his efficiency. He told me one story of a woman who came to him wanting to be his client, and he said it didn't make any sense because it was such a low amount of money that it was almost not worth his time to even work with this client. He said something in his gut told him it was a good decision, even though his brain was like, that's not enough money. So he ended up working with this woman. She ended up having connections and referred like 3 huge projects to him. And it was by following that, using that mindfulness piece, tuning into that quiet part of him rather than letting that monkey mind sort of run things.
Yeah, and I think for myself, I think I spoke with Kate Moyer last week, who's a yoga teacher and mindfulness instructor, and I think I shared this in that conversation. Maybe I didn't, but like for me, very often, like taking a yoga class, at some point during the class, like I just get like these brainstorms just come. Like if I'm stuck in writing, like an idea will come to me, and I'll leave the class and scribble it down really fast. But like, I always, like you can be as secular or as spiritual about it as you want. But I kind of, in my own thinking about it, feel like you have to shut this down to just hear, right? And you decide what you're hearing. You're hearing your soul, you're hearing the universe, you're hearing God, like whatever it is that speaks to you. Like you do have to kind of be present and trust that it's going to be there so that like this fear-based brain just shuts up enough for you to listen.
And I think it is like a muscle. I think the way that athletes develop certain muscles, when you develop that muscle, and I don't think it matters what you call it, yeah, based on whatever your belief system is, that grows. And that inner knowing gets louder and louder and more effective the more you
Mhm.
use it. Just like any muscle you use, the more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Mhm.
And so that same principle, I mean, it's why people have so many great ideas in the shower, is because a lot of times you're just kind of zoned and your brain is open. You're more receptive and open than you are other
Right.
times.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And tell me about your last tip about how mindfulness can make you more successful at work.
So the confidence piece,
Mhm.
and that can be something as simple as I have a couple clients who are in leadership positions of large organizations, and so it's important that they present themselves as extremely confident. And so some of those things, like that deep breathing, um, even the Wonder Woman pose, they talk about that, using your posture before they go on stage to present to the whole organization. But even people who are employees, if you have to give a presentation, or you have, say you're asking for a promotion, say you're asking for a different job, or you're interviewing for a different job because you're ready for a change, some of these mindfulness tips help you stay grounded in the moment, confident in yourself and your abilities, so that you go in and you present as clear, calm, knowing what you want. When those people do that, I've had 3 clients in the past 3 weeks need emergency sessions with me because they got multiple job offers and
Wow.
didn't know which to pick. Like, great, amazing problem to have. But I think it's because when you really use those mindfulness tools, you come across as just really a strong person, regardless of which situation it is.
Yeah, and I think you're like it's the authenticity maybe is part of it too, right? Like you're aligned. Like if you can
Absolutely.
listen, get aligned with like where are my values? How does this sit with company values and mission? Like are we a good fit? And once you connect all those dots, then it's kind of like, well, here it is, right? Like it's almost a
Yep.
no-brainer if it's a good fit.
And that values piece you just mentioned is huge. I work with all my clients on the values in the very first session,
Mhm.
because that authenticity, figuring out who you are, who you want to be, your vision. Absolutely, because then you know what jobs to apply for if you're looking to move, rather than scrolling down Indeed. I could do that. I could do that. Well, do you want to do that? Is that in line with who you are?
Exactly. Yeah, in my practice coaching work, my workbook is called Intentional Private Practice Workbook. That's the first part is values. Because
Yep.
even if you're going to work for yourself and you're launching your own practice, make that the place that you want to work at. Like make sure that that's reflecting, especially for an entrepreneur, in a solo provider kind of setting, like you are the business. The business, there's differences obviously, but the
Right.
business really embodies you. And if it's not a good reflection of your values, you're going to be like resentful about like, why am I doing this? Like, why exactly am I
Right.
here? And, we all know that like the motivation to work has to be bigger than probably just the paycheck. Like there are times
Oh
when
yeah.
you need more drive to it than that. So make sure that, you're putting yourself out there and into the world in a way that really represents who you are.
Absolutely. I think it makes for the happiest people.
Mhm.
That life is short, right? At the end of the day. So if you are waking up every day to go do a job, make sure, whether it's your own business or somewhere else, make sure it's something that you love.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So your ways were bringing in creativity and problem solving, productivity, and confidence. And when I think about how do you bring mindfulness into a professional space, like my first thought on that is just be fully present. So, like, this is a great skill for management, especially, but it's a good skill for employees too. If you're getting feedback, be fully present and hear it. Like, listen with curiosity, try to get that judging mind out of the picture because that judging mind is going to be coming up with your defense basically, and hopefully most of
Yeah.
us, if we're getting feedback at work, like we're not on the witness stand or we're not being prosecuted, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
Listen, hopefully. Just listen, and then, you can ask questions, you can like clarify, you can share your perspective, assuming, that's appropriate. But if you're not able to be fully present and listen, and you're getting it's almost like you're like 3 steps ahead of the conversation before the conversation has unfolded, it does a disservice, and it creates problems that maybe aren't even there to start with. My next one that I think we kind of started hitting on is that your emotions are your superpower. I think especially in the workplace, in a lot of places in life, especially in Western society, but especially in the workplace, we have this ideal of like be emotionless, like especially for women. I think we've heard, don't
Right.
get all
Be
don't get all
nice. Don't
womany.
be
Yeah.
emotional. Yeah.
Be nice, don't be too aggressive, and don't get overly emotional. And those emotions, that sensitivity, it shows up for a reason. You can pay attention to it, hear what it has to say. You don't have to act on it immediately,
Right.
but like listen to it. I always think of emotions as it's like another sense, right? Like we
Like a
listen to
barometer of, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. Like we're getting sensory information from outside of us through our senses. We're getting sensory information from inside of us through like our emotional response to what's going on. And when it's uncomfortable emotion, it probably is keyed into our value system. Like there's some conflict or boundary violation
Mhm.
or something about the way the world is around us or even our own actions is out of alignment, with our values. So when we can really listen to those emotions, it can really be powerful and maybe lead us in the direction that's going to be helpful.
Absolutely. And, I love working with women leaders because of that. I think also looking at some of the strengths that when you look at the types of leadership styles, that you do have, I think, more women in the servant leadership type position where they are, giving and serving others. And so being able to acknowledge, though, that leadership style, if they're in a company that is very male dominated, like I've had clients who are women in the oil and gas industry and things like that, it can be very difficult, sort of staking your claim as a leader, and it can be a different type leader. Like I think sometimes people expect, well, if a woman is to be a leader, she needs to be like how a man is a leader, and very like, whereas some of the best male leaders I've worked with have some of those servant styles that are more associated with women, and women find that balance also with different leadership styles, the more directed coaching styles that I think men have more familiarity with. So yeah, I think it does women a disservice, and men, honestly, because conversely,
Mhm.
men are told, be strong, and that showing anything other than say anger is weakness. So showing compassion and empathy and sadness. So I don't think we necessarily do men a great service either with some of our Western takes on that. And that's where mindfulness again can just
Mhm.
really help all of
Yeah.
those discussions happen.
Yeah, absolutely. My last takeaway, top tip, I guess, for bringing mindfulness into professional space is to, we kind of hit on this already, but to reset your nervous system and focus. So if you are going in a bunch of directions, you've got it's like the multiple operating systems are going at once, and our brain isn't super efficient when we try to pull that off. But taking that, one deep breath, one moment of just connecting with everything around you, everything within you, and then decide where you're going. If you're going to worry, but don't worry and try and work at the same time. You're not going to worry very efficiently. You're also not going to work very efficiently. And
Right.
if you're going, I think there's a chapter in my book called "If You're Going to Worry, Worry." But if you're going to worry, do it. And when you put your full attention to it, it's probably not worrying anymore. It's problem solving, it's planning, it's prioritizing.
Exactly.
Like it's efficient,
Exactly.
it's effective. And if you get to the point where like suddenly there's too much missing information to go further, that's what the brain gets like stuck on when we worry and ruminate is the what if, but there's no information. But if you can do that intentionally and get to that point, like you can recognize that and walk away from it and say like, okay, I've gone as far as I can. When I have this piece of information and that piece of information, I have faith that I'll make the best decision that I can. But until I get that information, I can't just continue to, to spin on that.
Right. Yeah. And I think what you're saying too, as soon as you start doing that, you lower the stress hormones in your body. So you think more clearly anyway. So then if you are going to worry, you're going to get to the problem solving stage of that much quicker than staying in that what if, and thinking all these crazy scenarios, 99% of which are never going to happen anyway. And then you've wasted all that time.
Exactly. And all that emotional energy. And I think that's the piece that like people maybe don't, I mean, I think when you talk about it, people get it intuitively, but they don't maybe recognize it ahead of time, is that when we put ourselves in these mental, emotional states that are future oriented, anticipated dread, anticipated whatever negative outcome it is, our emotional state and our physiology respond as if it's now. So like we've suddenly like, we put our brain into the future. We've envisioned, just like you said, the visualization tricks the brain. You can also be visualizing like crappy outcomes,
horrible things.
Yeah. Yes. And if you're doing that in the service of problem solving or worrying, you're pulling your physiology, to a level of arousal that it's not going to be good long-term for the body to stay in.
No, you can't sustain it. And that's when people get sick and have all kinds of conditions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's so all of it's connected. I keep thinking like I just want to talk about sleep, but I'm trying not to. But there's so much tie-in. Sleep.
Sleep is honestly, like I tell people, sleep, if you do nothing else with like mindfulness, meditation, if you do one thing, figure out your sleep where you're getting a good night, restful sleep, getting into the deep stages, and you will fix so much. So yeah, that could be a whole nother show on sleep.
It absolutely is. Yeah. Yeah. It's a fascinating topic. And there's like really interesting research about brains that are flooded with adrenaline. Not like during dream sleep, we process emotion, but if there's too much adrenaline in the brain, like that cycle gets broken. And then you get like repeated nightmares, like in trauma and veterans and things like that. So there's so much good stuff that can happen. A, if you set yourself up for a good night's sleep. B, if you get that good night's sleep with your functioning, the following day, and then, start moving in a much more positive direction.
I saw something interesting, a study recently that they found deep meditation, like really deep meditation, was equivalent to getting double that amount of sleep. So there are also things you can do if you didn't get a good night's sleep to try and, that's fascinating.
A great point. Yeah, it really is. Yeah, there's so much that we're still learning about
the brain. So much. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's good.
Yeah. So we're coming up on the end of our time together, but share a little bit more about other things that you're working on, how people can get in touch with you, all that kind of stuff.
Yes, I am like you, finishing my workbook. Well, not like you, because yours is out. But I am finishing a career coaching workbook that incorporates mindfulness. My website is prosperitycoachingandconsulting.com. I specialize in career and life coaching. So people can find me there. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere. Awesome. Twitter.
Great. Well, I'm so glad you can join me, or you could join me tonight.
I'm so happy to be here.
Me tonight. Yeah. And for people that are looking for Mindful Mondays, you can order it now from Amazon. I think you can also order it from Barnes & Noble. And if you're looking to connect with me or looking for additional content, it's www.drkimdwyer.com. I do have, if you go on there, go to books and then go to the page for Mindful Mondays, I have a free breath awareness meditation that's on there. You can look around. There's like some more goodies. There's a sample first chapter on there as well that you can take a look at if you are interested in learning some more. So thanks for joining us. We hope you all have found this helpful. We encourage you to reach out, and we'll say goodbye for now.
Bye.